Here's the complete story in one part. While I was sleeping, my nephew Mateo knocked on my door and surprised me. True family story. My name is Sarah, and this story begins on an ordinary evening in early autumn. The crisp chill of the evening breeze drifted through the slightly open windows, rustling the curtains as I curled up under a warm blanket on the couch. I had been exhausted from a long week at work and the kind of fatigue that comes not only from physical labor but also from emotional strain. I lived alone in a quiet suburban neighborhood, and while I was content most days, the loneliness sometimes weighed heavily on me, especially when the house was so silent that I could hear every creak of the wooden floorboards. That night, I drifted into a half-sleep, my mind wandering between dreams and reality, when suddenly I heard a soft knock at my front door. At first, I thought I had imagined it. It was nearly midnight, far too late for anyone to be visiting, and I lived in a neighborhood where unexpected visitors were rare. The knock came again, louder this time, followed by a tentative voice. "Aunt Sarah? It's me. Mateo." I sat upright instantly, my heart racing. Mateo, my sister's son, was only 14 years old. He lived with his mother, my older sister Angela, just a few miles away. Why would he be at my door at this hour? Panic and worry rushed through me as I hurried across the living room and opened the door. There he was, my nephew Mateo, standing on my porch in the cool night air, clutching a small backpack. His dark hair was messy, his eyes were red from either crying or exhaustion, and his shoulders slumped with a weight no child his age should carry. "Mateo," I whispered, trying not to sound alarmed. "What are you doing here? It's so late." He looked up at me, his voice shaky. "Can I come in? Please?" Without another word, I stepped aside and let him inside. He kicked off his sneakers quietly, as though afraid of disturbing the silence, and followed me into the kitchen. I flicked on the soft overhead light and filled 2 mugs with hot tea, my hands trembling slightly as I tried to remain calm. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Mateo's fingers fidgeted with the handle of his mug, though he didn't drink from it. His silence stretched until I couldn't bear it anymore. "Mateo," I said gently, "what happened? Why are you here at this time of night?" He looked down at the table, then back at me, his eyes glistening. I couldn't stay at home tonight. Mom and I got into a fight. She doesn't understand me, Aunt Sarah. She thinks I'm just being difficult, but I feel like she never listens. I didn't know where else to go, so I came here." Relief washed through me that he was safe, but my heart ached at the pain in his voice. My sister Angela was a hard-working single mom, juggling 2 jobs just to keep things afloat. She loved Mateo deeply, but I knew how arguments could flare up between them. Angela had always been strong-willed, and Mateo was reaching that age where he was testing boundaries, searching for independence. It was a stormy combination. I reached across the table and placed my hand over his. "I'm glad you came here, Mateo. You're safe. You don't have to be alone when you feel like this." He nodded, biting his lip to keep it from trembling. "Thanks, Aunt Sarah." That night, Mateo slept on the couch while I stayed awake for hours, listening to the sound of his steady breathing. My thoughts churned with worry not just for him, but for Angela too. Family was never simple, and tonight it felt more fragile than ever. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows, and I made Mateo pancakes for breakfast, trying to bring some sense of normalcy. He ate quietly, though a small smile finally tugged at the corner of his lips. After breakfast, I picked up the phone and called my sister. Angela's voice was sharp with panic when she answered. "Sarah. Oh my God, is Mateo there? I've been worried sick." "Yes," I replied softly, glancing at him across the table. "He's here. He showed up last night." Angela let out a shaky breath. "Thank goodness he's safe. Please, can I come over? We need to talk." An hour later, Angela arrived at my house. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes red from crying, and the moment she saw Mateo, she rushed to hug him. But he hesitated, folding his arms across his chest. "Mateo," she whispered, her voice breaking, "I was so worried. Why would you run away like that?" He looked away, his voice cold. "Because you don't listen. You're always working, and when you are home, you just tell me what I'm doing wrong." The words hit Angela like a physical blow. She blinked rapidly, trying to hold back tears. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know I haven't been perfect. I've been so stressed, and I thought I was doing my best for us. But I see now I haven't been really listening." I stayed quiet, giving them space but ready to step in if needed. Slowly, Mateo's shoulders loosened. He finally allowed his mother to hug him, and she clung to him as though afraid he might slip away again. That moment marked the beginning of a change in their relationship. Over the next few weeks, Angela and Mateo worked hard to communicate better. Sometimes they still argued, but there was more patience, more willingness to listen on both sides. And I remained a steady presence for them both, offering Mateo a place where he felt heard and giving Angela the reassurance that she wasn't alone in raising him. Looking back now, I realize how close that night came to pushing our family apart forever. But instead, it became the turning point we all needed. Mateo learned that he wasn't alone, Angela discovered the strength in showing vulnerability, and I understood the importance of being present for the people you love, even when you don't have all the answers. Families aren't perfect. They stumble, they clash, and sometimes they break. But if there is love and a willingness to listen, healing is always possible. And for us, it all began one quiet night when my nephew knocked on my door.